in the Pursuit of Truth. Dao Li, Chapter 2, People, Part 2. The harsh reality of a cultural revolution of late 1960s is hard to imagine unless you were part of it. Almost every intellectual family in Shanghai has someone or knew someone very close who committed suicide. D.R.'s mother talked to her husband at length every day after he came back from work, extremely exhausted and often depressed. She wanted to know what happened that day in the hospital, helped analyze the situation, and advised on what to do and what not to do next. It cannot be overemphasized how critical family support was during such crisis. "I will not do anything silly, and I will tough it out," the old man promised. In addition to hard labor, D.R.'s father was subjected to daily political indoctrination. He and a group of his colleagues with the same fate were ordered to memorize Mao's essay, "Serve the People," and no single mistake was allowed. To avoid further humiliation and punishment, the old man tried hard. He read it aloud again and again until he could memorize it. Then he recited it to his son, who would affirm or correct his recitation. After a few days' exercise, the professor was ready to be tested. That day, he came back with a little smile on his face. They said it was not too bad. Humans are a living species with amazing adaptability, both physically and mentally. Soon the professor was used to the daily work as a janitor, and even found some mental satisfaction for being able to keep the clinic sparkling clean, just as he used to see in his early days in Vienna. Besides, he helped with the reception when the clinic was open, which he liked. Doctors on daily duty in the clinic were all his students. He kept the crowd of visiting patients in order and conducted some screening so that he could send the patients to the doctor with the right specialty. Patients were happy to talk to the old man, and the young doctors exchanged some smile with him as he ushered the visiting patients into the doctor's booth. One day, the professor came back looking badly shaken. His left cheek was swollen. That day, as he was trying to keep the visiting patients in order, someone from out of town jumped the line and created a disturbance. The crowd booed him, and the old man politely asked him to go back to the end of the line. The troublemaker felt he was losing face, and the shame turned to anger. The temporary receptionist was so serious about doing his job, he forgot his own identity and vulnerability, which the radical spotted and exploited. As soon as he figured out the receptionist he faced was a defenseless class enemy, he jumped on the old man and landed a ferocious blow to his face. D.R. soon learned what happened to his father. The old man told his wife the horror story with tears in his eyes. This was the second time he wept since he saw the Japanese flag on China's soil about 30 years before. DR was still thinking about the question why his parents decided to stay put. He felt he owed an answer to JL. There were many reasons, and I'm sure one of them was his belief that a medical doctor should do well in any society, whoever may rule, DR said. Up until the Cultural Revolution, this seems to be the scenario that had played out. JL had his own perspective. Yes, but there is something deeper. Even General Marshall was impressed by the Chinese communists for being more energetic and less corrupt than the nationalists. He got the impression when he visited the communists' base camp in Yan'an after the Second World War. That was quite unexpected, DR responded. JL continued. Similarly, when Peking, now Beijing, was surrounded by the People's Liberation Army, the nationalist Nanking government ordered military planes to the old imperial capital to evacuate elite scholars and scientists. But few decided to leave the city, and some planes came back south almost empty. DR nodded. I guess my parents perhaps had the same mindset. I knew they had an unfavorable view of the previous government. One thing I remember them talking before was the skyrocketing inflation just before the communists take over. Sometimes a good first impression could go a long way. On the day the Communist Army entered Shanghai in May 1949, they slept on the streets without disturbing the residents. The Communists looked like a fresh and exciting political force that could bring China to its bright future. People also gave credit to the new regime when they saw how soon the epidemic of opium addiction was eradicated. Chinese people certainly hope this was the beginning of a new and promising trend. But few realized that the real historical trend would take a long time to confirm and validate. As JL turned on the radio, there was the melody of the familiar song, 5-Star Red Flag Fluttering in the Wind. People got so used to it that no one gave any thought about the meaning of its lyrics. So we all know that our national flag has 5 stars, JL started. But what do they actually represent? DR realized what JL was getting at. It embodied the united progressive political forces in China. It reflected the theory of new democracy advocated by Mao at the founding of the People's Republic. The big star was the Communist Party as the leader. The 4 small stars represented the 4 classes: workers, farmers, intellectuals, and business owners. So, they are all firmly and officially in the category of the people. JL continued. It is ironic, isn't it? While the 5-star flags continue to be hoisted every day all over China, 2 of the stars on the flag have actually faded away. Now it is more like the hammer and sickle, DR added, referring to the flag of the old Soviet Union. The view is so radical now that even Stalin is thought to be too cozy with intellectuals, as a sign that the Soviet Communist Party has become revisionist. The Soviets are now condemned simply for not being left enough, JL concluded. The new democracy had long turned obsolete, or Mao might have never seriously meant it. A new era of Mao's continued revolution under the dictatorship of the proletariat had begun in earnest. That theory to justify dictatorship was so convoluted, but its impact and the consequences were clear. The concept and the definition of the people in the People's Republic had fundamentally changed. In addition to the propaganda of class struggle, what other means does the Communist Party use to influence and control the thinking of the Chinese people? Please listen to Chapter 3 about nationalism and patriotism. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing with others.